This is Art Talk with April, Season 5. This season, we're talking with some return artists from previous seasons and some new artists, some people that are just starting out, and some gallery professionals. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art Talk with April. Today, I'm talking with Holly Meyers of the Bells Gallery in Dothan, Alabama. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Holly. I think this is going to be so exciting. I love what you're doing in Dothan, and I think a lot of artists will be very interested to hear what you're doing. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and having me on.
Yeah, this is exciting. So can you share with us a little bit about your journey and getting started and having a gallery in Dothan and being a part of the arts community?
So I moved to Dothan when I was in middle school, and it was kind of a culture shock for me. And I was I was not happy about coming here. And over time, I really grew to love Southern culture and the history here and the people and just sort of the vibrancy here. But with that being said, I didn't know that I could actually work in the arts. I think in this area, like I didn't go to school in Dothan, I actually went to school in the county. And so there really weren't a lot of art options even in school.
Yeah.
But definitely had no idea that could be like a profession or field that I studied. So now when I look back, I'm like, I would 100% have studied fine art or art history or museum studies or something like that, had I even known that was an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I always loved the arts. I was always drawn to them. I loved going to museums. And so when I was about 23 years old, I think, I started volunteering at the Wiregrass Museum of Art. And then eventually that turned into a part-time job at the front desk, and then full-time. And so that was like when I realized, like, oh my God, I love it here. Like, this is where I want to be. And I got to really understand like the mechanics of art administration. And so I was there at the museum for a while, and then I went to Tuscaloosa and I worked at Kentucky for like 2 festival seasons. During all of that, I always wanted to have my own gallery, but I just kind of assumed it would be like a retirement thing. Like, when I retire, I'll have a gallery. But it happened a lot sooner and unexpectedly. And so that's kind of how I got here. It was always a dream and always a passion. And the opportunity presented itself during 2022, and I ran with it.
Oh man, that is so cool. So it's kind of happened sooner than what you expected. So why Dothan then? Why are you in Dothan?
So I've been in and out of Dothan since I was in high school. And I don't know, my family's here, and I think I really, really, really fell in love with the Alabama arts. And I had already had that education when I was at WMA, but then when I went to Tuscaloosa and at Kentucky, it just solidified how much I love the Alabama arts and Southern art too. Just how unique, and I hate the word unique, but it's the best way of describing it. Southern art is a very unique to the country and to the world. And I think it's so important. And so Dothan, especially for me, I'm like, there's not a lot of opportunities for people that are interested in art, people that may not even know that they're interested in art yet, because there's not a lot of opportunities to experience it. There's not a lot of access to it. That's why I'm in Dothan. I just feel passionate about being here, and it's home. So
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So what kind of qualities or characteristics do you look for in artwork or artists to choose to represent in your gallery?
So I actually don't represent any artists yet, like official representation. That's something that I would love to get into, but I'm just not there yet. But in terms of the artists that I bring in, we do monthly rotating exhibitions. And one rule that I have is I will never put art in here that I don't love, that I am not excited about. It is a commercial space, so everything is for sale. And I try not to factor in the commercial part of it too much when I have an artist. So, for example, some artists are more palatable, you know what I mean? Like there's certain art that I know, oh, that's going to sell, like, especially in Dothan. Like if you put landscapes in here, which I've never done, but I would love to, they would sell. But to me, I'm like, the weirder, the better. And maybe that's not going to sell in Dothan, but also I kind of, I need to love it. I need to want it here. So I get a lot of proposals. I get proposals like throughout the day. And I typically am looking for art that, trying to think of the right words here. I'm not going to put the same thing in here every month. So like, for example, if there's a fiber artist, I may only do like 1 to 2 shows of fiber art in a year. So I'm also trying to think of like spacing the work month by month. But I would put fiber art in here every month if I could. It's my favorite. But yeah, so I'm really looking for that feeling when I open it up where I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to have this in the gallery. And I don't really know how to name that feeling, but it's typically something that I just really love that I would want to have in my home.
Okay. That's interesting. So just as a gallery owner, you're basically putting it through your own filter as far as like what you enjoy, because then what's going to be on your walls are going to be the things that you're excited about. And then other people will be excited about it, because if you weren't excited about it, they'd be like,
Yeah.
Like but your energy is what kind of,
For sure. And also I realize that what I like sometimes, a lot of the times is maybe not what the typical Dothanite going to want. And so it is a balance for me where I'm like, there are shows that I'll bring into the gallery and I'm like, I know nothing's going to sell in here. And it's not because it's not amazing, but it might be more like museum quality work that doesn't have a place in someone's home, but it has a place in like a legit collection somewhere. So it's like, it's a balance for me of like, I told myself going into it, I cannot put something in here that I do not love. I have to be excited about it.
That's like your main thing that you look for. Are you like going towards specific kinds of styles or anything like that? Or you're just kind of, I think like your gallery is contemporary, right? So you're looking for contemporary types of art. But like the art behind you is sort of more, I would say like, is it like a folk style?
So, for sure. So this artist, Christian Hamrick, he and I actually just had this conversation because the local news came and I was like, do you mind being described as an outsider artist? Yeah. And sometimes the word folk artist comes with like this weird baggage, so I don't. Sure. Yeah. Sometimes, like I don't, but yes. And for me, I would look at this and be like, oh, this is like real cool, like folk, like outsider art. But then he has other work that doesn't look that way. So, but yeah, definitely that's like, I would 100%, I could see this at like Kentucky or like a Southern contemporary style museum or festival.
What kind of advice would you give to maybe emerging artists that like, or what do you look for, or what would you consider like a strong portfolio? Like if they send you a proposal, then what are you, I guess are you just looking at it through, these are the things that I love and this makes sense for me? Or like, what have you seen that you were like, okay, they need to work on this a little bit more?
Okay. So two things that I just thought of while you were asking that. One, I did a call for the show was called Grits, and it was in sometime last year. And it was going to be basically a Southern grits, girls raised in the South. So I was looking specifically for girls or non-binary artists or trans artists that were from the South and had like a Southern scope to their work. And so that was very specific. I'm looking like I had so many proposals, and a lot of the proposals were coming in with the same theme. So I was really heavy on like the statement that comes with your work. What does it mean? What does it represent? Like what is behind this piece? Because I was trying to build context to the show. And there was one piece of art in particular that when I looked at it, it wasn't like, something that I would have probably chosen. But her statement that went with the work was so strong that I was just like, this piece is definitely in, because the statement with it spoke to me. And so it really, the work itself obviously goes a long way, but then also, a bio matters, an artist statement matters, your CV and your resume, it matters. But again, if I see something and it just is absolutely amazing, those other parts, may not be as important. It really just depends. It's like a full picture when I see all of that together. But again, I'm totally fine with artists that are just starting out, like emerging artists. Like I've had, just off the top of my head, I've had 4 artists that this was their first, gallery exhibit, like solo show.
Yeah.
And so obviously their resume or their CV is not
going to be super polished.
Yeah. but I can see the talent there, and I can see like the real artistry. And I love that, because I'm like, this person's going to have a career. Like Darianne Farr was in the gallery last month. She is going to be doing some amazing things. And I'm so excited to have her in the space, or having her in the space.
I loved her work too. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. It was just very, very bright and colorful. Of course, I realized that being in the gallery, I would have like probably a whole different experience. Seeing something in person is such a, I don't know if people realize, like maybe people who don't really visit galleries very often, seeing art on Instagram is one thing, but seeing it in person can give you a whole nother feeling about
it. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing with her work. It's like, I hadn't seen a lot of it in person. So I didn't understand the scale of it.
Yeah.
Obviously I knew the measurements, but like when you see it, it was a lot of that figurative work of hers is life size. Like it's like I am the same height as this woman that I'm standing in front of on paper. But that show was stunning. It really was. Like her color palette, everything just moved so well. And it was the most figurative work I've ever had in the space. So I liked that, having figurative work here.
That is really interesting. What would you, I guess I want to kind of, not only for you and your gallery, but what do you think that like galleries look for, like particularly in Alabama? Like what are galleries going for? As far as, I know there's going to be different styles and different types of galleries. Like, there's some galleries in Fairhope and, maybe I don't know what they could be going for, but what do you think artists should be thinking about as far as their work? Should they try to, aim towards a certain style in a certain gallery, or would you recommend them just searching for their own style and applying to different galleries?
That's the second. I would say, do your own work. I wouldn't tailor it to anyone, unless it's like a commission that you're willing to tailor your art for. But I would To me, I say blast it out to as many galleries as you can. Apply to all the things. I think that residencies, any type of like workshops, the more that you can connect, like your community just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think a lot of doors open up that way as well. Um, and then too, whenever you're in a space, then you're getting more eyes on it. And so like somebody like me, like I could go to Low Mill and walk around through their galleries and see someone like, oh, I want to have them in the space. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really a vulnerable experience for an artist, especially a young emerging artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say young, I don't mean age wise. I mean like a young artist who's like new to the work. But I think you just have to like apply to all the things and put a nice little proposal together, really clean up your bio, clean up your artist statement. Another thing that makes a difference for me, and it's weird to say it, but social media, having a strong art social media page for me is very important. Because say like I get a proposal from an artist, and pretty much any artist that I get a proposal from that I'm somewhat interested in, read through it, and I will immediately go to their website and to their social media. And there I can get a better feel for the person, because that's another part of it for me is you can love someone's art, or you can maybe like be like, oh, that's nice. But then if you connect with the artist, or if you see the artist and who they are, it can increase that value so much more to the body of work or to the piece or whatever. So I will always go and look and see like who is this person, and what other work are they creating. So I think that is very important today, is making sure that your art social media is, on, and a lot of times artists don't have time for that. So I can also see that as well. Like if I go to an artist page and I'm like, oh, they don't care about social media, but they're still.
You can definitely tell when someone's like,
and that's okay too, because that's like a part of who they are. So that's like building into the persona for me. Yeah. So, but I do think that social media and website matters.
Yeah. I think what when you go to those spaces, when you go to their social media, are you looking at like how many followers or anything like that, or are you looking at like the consistency of their style, or the type of imagery or the other spaces they've been in? What are you looking at?
Kind of all of the things. However, like the amount of followers is really not as important. I mean, sometimes it's great, because then you're like, oh, they're serious, like they're professional. So, but then other times, like I was just saying before, like you can tell people that don't care about it. They don't care about social media. So they're not like actively out there trying to build their base.
Yeah.
But all of those things, it's really, to me, it's like getting a feel for the artist as a person, and then knowing how serious they are about their work. I would say to first and foremost, your work should be like, do all the residencies, do all the workshops, connect, just try to build on your skills and your practice. And that should always, in my opinion, should always be the first part of that. And then just putting yourself out there and reaching out and, messaging, emailing. You don't want to be too pushy.
Yeah.
You
don't want to spam anybody, because then they'll be like, oh, not her again, or not him again,
But it does help to connect, with as many people as you can in the art world. And the Alabama art world is small, really. I mean, there are a lot of people and there's a lot of things happening, but it's really easy to connect and then like know everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel that way too. I feel like that is probably one of the most important bits of advice is to network and not necessarily shut yourself off from the rest of the art community, and I think a lot of artists kind of tend to do that. We get in our zone and we're in our spaces and we forget to do anything outside of our, studio. We're like making the art and don't necessarily go and do and talk and, interact with other people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think representation is helpful if you have a gallery or a person that's doing that for you. So that's even a suggestion. I mean, if there's someone in your life that can help you with those things, like I help. So I have a lot of friends, artist friends and family that I will help them write their artist statement, or, I'm constantly sending out like the workshops and the residencies that they should apply to, or other calls. So I think as somebody that is working on the administrative side of things, I get that about artists, that some people are just not good at it. Some people just don't have time for it. So there are times where I will see art that I like and I will reach out. So not every show that I have is because they sent in a proposal. Like, for example, Christian, this show, he did not send me a proposal. I reached out to him.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So that will happen too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's a fine line there though, because gosh, I think a lot of artists kind of wait for somebody to say something to them and don't necessarily reach out because it's kind of scary, I guess, or a little like, I want to be professional. I want to have everything figured out, want it to be just right before I do that. So do you recommend like just going ahead and trying to get in touch with galleries, whether you think it's perfect or not?
Yeah, even a quick, and even if you don't have a proposal, just a quick email like, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my website. If you're interested in a show, I mean, a proposal goes a long way. But I would say just put it out there. And there are times where I've gotten proposals and it didn't fit. So like for the Grits call to artists that I did, there are artists that I didn't put in that show, but I gave them, or I have shows like solo shows coming up with them. Wow. So there are times where like, even if at that moment it's not going to work, I'll come back to it later and be like, oh, I'm going to go look at this person again and see if fit for, this month or whatever. But so I think even if you don't get any feedback, just know that somebody's eyes saw it and it's there in their mind. And then, with art, when people buy art, they say like, sometimes you have to, sometimes a person sees it immediately and wants it. And then there are other types of art where you've got to see it a couple times before you want to buy it. So I think that's the kind of the same for me. It's like seeing it in different capacities. So like a very formalized proposal, and then, at a festival, seeing it again, it's like the context of the environment in which I'm seeing the art can help me see it better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I would just say do all the things that you can.
Yeah. Well, so you keep talking about proposals. I'm not sure if all of the listeners will know what that means. Like, what do you mean by proposal? So
each gallery is different, or museums are different. And so when somebody puts a call out, and you could go to like Instagram and look and follow call to artists, like that particular hashtag. And so each entity is going to have their proposal, framework or whatever. For me, I have a basic one out, and it's for solo exhibitions. It's for group shows that could come up. And I think I ask for like, if you're wanting a solo show, I ask for you to send me like a body of work proposal. So I need to be able to see that you have a collection of works that can fit with a theme in the space. If there's not a theme, then I need to know that you have enough work that can fill a gallery space. So basically I ask for like, so many high-res images. I ask for a bio, a CV, an artist statement, and then I'll ask for like your social media website and all of that. So for me, what's really easy is if, as an artist, if you just already have all of that somewhere in a PDF form, and then you could just click send, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just really compiling that information that already exists. And then I think too, what I've noticed with some of the artists that I've worked with locally in Dothan that don't have those things, it's also like the next step for professionalism. Like, you need an artist statement. You need to write an artist statement. You know what I mean? Like, and as an artist, whether you like writing or not, you're critically thinking through who you are as an artist and what is important to you. And you are sort of like, the framework already exists, but now you're like putting it on paper.
Yeah.
Which, you know, a lot of artists that have been around for a while have artist statements. And then obviously if they went to school, they have that. But then there are artists that didn't go to school or just starting out, and they don't even know they need an artist statement. So I would say each call is going to be different of what they're needing, but it's really easy if you just throw it together like in a PDF form. And then even if there's not a call, you could just send that out to museums, to galleries, and introduce yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, well,
That makes sense,
right?
Did that make sense though?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm imagining, like, so I'm a graphic designer, and when I would put together like a portfolio and a resume, I would, have like a cover letter and a CV and then some images of my work, and it would be in a PDF form, and I would email it to, the company or whatever that I was trying to apply for. So that makes sense to me. I don't know. I might have a certain perspective, but yeah, of course. What are some common mistakes that artists make when approaching the galleries? And like, but have you seen anything you thought, oh no, they really shouldn't be doing that, or I wish that they would have done it this way, or maybe and do you tell them and reach out to them if they're doing something that maybe isn't professional or appropriate or whatever?
I can't really think of anything. I mean, I like to meet people. It's nice if I'm somewhere and an artist like introduce themselves, but it can be a little awkward if they're like, "Can I have a show? Like, what do I need to do to have?" It's if you're asking like, "Oh, I'm really interested in being in your gallery, and like, what do I need to do?" And that's one thing. But when I've had people kind of like put me on the spot of like, you know what I mean?
You're like having dinner with your family and somebody comes by and they're like, oh yeah. So
maybe not, but like at an opening night, come in and be like, when can I get in the gallery? And I've never even seen the work or whatever. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's sweet when that happens. It's normally like young people, but I would say, definitely introduce yourself, but just don't be like in person pushy, like send the proposal, send the email, try to cultivate a relationship unless you are directly responding to a call.
Yeah, that makes sense. So don't like, hunt you down and talk to you in public places like, hey, I know who you are and I want to be in your gallery.
Yeah. And I've had two artists in particular that were like extremely pushy. And
now, were they local to Dothan? Do you think
they were not?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And one of them, I was like, I'm just going to give her a show because she really wants it. And then she backed out on me.
Oh, no.
And after that, I was like, okay, it actually helped me better understand, like, well, my gut was telling me no anyway. And I was kind of like bullied into it. And so I'm like, that will not happen again. But it all goes back to like, what do I love and what do I want in this space that I'm, excited about.
Yeah.
That's like
Following your own instincts there.
Yeah.
So let's say someone is getting a solo show in your gallery, what all do you do for them as far as like, do they do all their framing and I guess, do they help you hang the show? Do you have like specifications on like labeling the art or signing it a certain way or anything like that? Or do you promote and market their show in a certain way? Like, what should they expect if they were to get a solo show with your gallery?
So one thing, just down to like the hardware of the work, I ask that everyone please do not drop off art unless it's ready to hang. And that is something that every artist should know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
If they're going to be in a gallery or a museum, you need to have hardware because then I'm going to be wasting time adding hardware to your work, which is very annoying. But so yeah, typically as far as like installation goes, so since the shows are monthly rotating, I have a very short window of when old work comes down and new work goes up. And so it's a lot of coordinating with, both artists.
Sure.
And depending on if the work has to be shipped or if it can be picked up or dropped off, that kind of thing. I'm open to artists installing with me. It's not necessary. It boils down to the artist preference. If they want to install their work, that's great. And I will be a part of that process just because I know the space and there's certain things that I need to visualize. But yeah, I typically will install the work myself. And I'll either meet the artist, like for example, if they're in Birmingham, a lot of times if I'm making a trip there, I can just pick up or drop off, or we'll meet in like Montgomery and trade off. Because I love for the artist to be here for the openings. It makes a really big difference, I think, for the show if they're present for that. So I'd rather just install the work so then they can be here for the opening. And they don't have to make 2 trips to Dothan. But yeah, so I will promote the work as much as I can. Again, with the monthly rotating, it's a little tricky because you don't want to be promoting your next show while you have your current show. So it's like getting the announcement out in advance, as far out in advance as I can. Like, hey, the show is happening at this month. And then that's like the first round of marketing. I do rely heavily on the artist own community and collectors. So it will go a long way if the artist already has a following and they can help promote. So a lot of times when I post things, I'll invite the artist to be a collaborator. And so we're getting it out to both audiences. But so then every show, nearly every day, I'm posting a piece of work from the show. And I love to make it about the art, and I will do gallery shots, but I'm really trying to promote that piece of art. I'm really trying to sell that piece of art. So I have everything up on my website as well. I have an online gallery. So people, if they like something, they can purchase it from the online gallery. And then I try to build in as much programming as I can. Sometimes it might be like an Instagram live because they're not local. If they are close to the area and they can be here, then we'll do artist talks. Like Christian will have an artist talk coming up. And I haven't had an artist talk in this new space because did you know I'm in a new space? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
So I was in an incubator space and it was actually like next door. Like I can literally see the door from here. So I was in an incubator space and then I moved. This is my 3rd show in this new space. But so I also will send out emails. I send out like 2 to 3 emails a month about the current work that's in the show or in the gallery. So it's kind of a balance of like really the work that's up in the gallery that month is getting all the attention. So it's hard to promote
Yeah,
down
that makes sense.
because you don't
Yeah.
want to take away from what's happening in the present.
Actually, that I feel like in my experience, working with artists, like on my podcast, I have to do kind of the same thing. Like I'll have an interview that promotes a certain period while it's up, and then it publishes, and then the next artist comes along, and I feel like I can't like promote one before I go to the other, and like try to, I guess, my due diligence for each artist that I'm trying to represent on the podcast. I'm trying to give them each a fair, amount of, I don't know, airtime or something. Do you have issues with people like sharing that they're having a show at the gallery and marketing that part of it on their end? And
no, I mean, not really. I think everyone does their part. So throughout the first year of existence, I would be promoting like, next week we have a new show during the current show that was happening.
Yeah.
And someone that I respect very much, who has just a lot of like gallery and art knowledge, he's in Birmingham. He was like, stop doing that. Like, you can't promote the new, like, other art while you need to be focused on the artist that's in your space. And at that point, like, I knew that I was taking away, and I did worry, well, I hope the artist isn't like offended that I'm already promoting this other artist. But whenever those were thoughts that I had, but then having someone with that experience who was like, don't do that anymore. You need to focus solely on the art that's in your space while, the final days that it's in the space, because, that's your final push to, promote the work. So don't already be focused on the next show. So once he said that, I was like, okay, I already knew that internally, but I just didn't act on it. So now you've confirmed that I've been doing it. But it's also, a month is not a long time, period of time. And so I've actually started this month. It's called Mural City Wine Bar and Coffee. And it's downtown. It's a beautiful, like, very large, old historic building downtown. And there's 3 levels. The bottom level is coffee and wine bar area. And then the middle level is like kind of more of the seating and the wine bar section.
Yeah.
And so basically I was offered that space to curate that space on the second floor. And
wow.
So what I'm doing from now on is, if the artist is more local, and not all of the art will work. So if I have an artist in the space and their work is like super delicate and, precious in the way of like easily worn and torn, then or if they're at a distance, it wouldn't work. But I'm going to try to take most of the shows that are in the gallery down to that space, and then they'll have like a second life in that space for 2 months. So technically, a lot of this work is now I'm transitioning out of only having it for a month, and I'll be able to have it for like 3 months. And again, it's not going to work with every artist in the show, but like this body of work is going to go down there, and the space is huge. So we will bring even more art. So I'm really excited about that, because that's like another layer of promoting the work and marketing the work. And I know there'll be a completely different set of eyes on that art in that space. So, but yeah, I mean, I am focused on promoting it, but at the same time, it's limited. I mean, I'm limited in how much I can do, like, budget wise. And I mean, in a world, I'd have like thousands of dollars to promote every month,
Yeah.
But if I had a museum budget or something, I would be on things. But
that's exciting. That's like that's like a second gallery almost. And then
it really is. And I just announced it, but I do have a show already there that just is opening today. And it was Carolyn Cowper. She was in the gallery in May. So I already had her work here, and she's also in the back of the gallery. I have studio spaces, and she's one of the studio artists in the back. So it was very easy for me to be like, okay, well, let me put that work over there for about a month until this show closes. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And so that'll give you well, how do you handle that? I mean, I guess the people that are there with the coffee bar and the wine bar, do they talk to people about the art, or do they like send them, like if someone is like, oh, I love this, do they send them to you and just say,
So
hey,
I've built in like as much language and signage that I can.
yeah.
So I basically have like several signs that are explaining the collaboration between the gallery and Mural City. And then I have a second sign that's like about the artist, and it's about her body of work and her bio. And then I have like Venmo and PayPal QR codes everywhere. And so each piece has its own label and the price and everything. And so if someone's interested, I have my contact information everywhere. But also, like, if you want to buy the piece, all you got to do is scan the QR code and buy it. And you could take it with you. There are some larger pieces that you wouldn't be able to, like, I'd have to come, we'd have to coordinate to get the piece down. But there are a lot of small works that you could buy and literally just take it with you that same day. You don't have to wait.
Oh my gosh. That's nice.
Yeah. So it's not like as rigid as like this gallery. Like you can't touch the art on the walls. You know what I mean? And if you buy it, you got to wait until the show closes, and then we'll coordinate shipping or whatever. But over there, it's a little more relaxed. And that's why the artist and the art will have to work perfectly in the space. Like not just any artist can go over there.
Yeah. I imagine it would mostly need to be, like framed art on the wall that, not necessarily sculpture or things like that. Do you have like three-dimensional pieces sometimes? And
So I keep coming back to Christian. Christian, the artist that's in the gallery right now, Christian Hamrick, he has some really cool like metal sculptures that we are going to bring over there.
Oh, wow.
But you can't break them. They're like, you know what I mean? They're like rusted and like there's no breaking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the work that we take over there has to blend with that space for that reason. But yeah, it'll be a lot of, like canvas works, mostly 2D over there, but definitely there is room for like installation style stuff and then sculpture.
Wow.
It's not easy to break sculpture.
Yeah.
no subjects.
Oh gosh. And I'm sure like as a gallery, I mean, like you got like insurance things and stuff like that, just in case something happens. I mean, how do you even handle something like that?
Yeah. So that's why it works so well with going over there. So I have a fine arts policy, and all of the art is insured. And through the gallery agreement, it's just extended to that time frame that it's in my care, basically. So if anything was to happen, the work is insured. However, I am going to be like, if you break it, you buy it over there.
Yeah, really. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that is exciting though. That does give you a little bit more time to have different show. Like you don't necessarily have to have the same artist. You can kind of have two different spaces, and kind of give more wall time, I guess.
And two different audiences, which hopefully will help them want to come to the gallery here. A lot of people don't know about the gallery. And then also I've created the First Friday Art Crawl. It's been happening since August of 2022. The art crawl has been happening since October of 22. And so many people still don't know about it. And like, so that's the kind of stuff I'm just really working to like promote the gallery and promote all art community things in Dothan.
Sure. So tell us about the Friday art crawl.
So it's the art crawl. It happens on the first Friday of every month. So typically when you see an art crawl or an art night or whatever in a city, there's going to be like an arts and entertainment district or whatever. And there's going to be multiple galleries that are all involved. And you're just like popping from gallery to gallery. Well, that's not realistic right now in Dothan. So I'm the only art gallery, but there are other businesses. So like there's a photography studio that is participating. And then some of my neighbors around, like there's a paint studio next door. There's a boutique next door. So basically it's small businesses that are opening up on the first Friday of every night or of every month, excuse me. And they are hosting artists. So like one location may have 5 artists. One location may have 1 artist. And the artists are able to pop up and sell their work, or they can demonstrate. They can just show their work. And it doesn't have to be that they're selling it. We have one artist that does really cool portraits. And she'll pop up, randomly, and she'll sell portraits basically. And you'll just sit there and she can paint you. But so we have over 10 locations every month, and the artists keep growing. And that's how I've realized that Dothan has a very underserved local artist community.
Sure.
There's like a gap, a major gap in education. Like I was even describing for me in the beginning, like I didn't know that I could study art and not be an artist. So to me, I'm like, well, if you're studying art, that means you're an artist. Yeah. I didn't understand that. No, you can study art history or museum studies or fine art and not be an artist. But I think that's the same thing for here. Is like, I don't think that there's enough arts education happening, in the early years. And so now as adults or even like late teenagers, they want to be an artist, but there's not a lot of outlets. So the art crawl has been a great gateway to becoming an artist. It's like, if people are a little bit interested, the only criteria that I have is that it can't be like country craft stuff. I love craft, but it can't be, it has to be like true contemporary craft and not, like door hangers or something.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been a great way to build the local arts community. And we have like, I want to say there's like 30 to 40 something artists that participate randomly. Like, like every month I send them the form. After they filled out the application and they're accepted, I put them in a chat. And every month I send out the form. Hey, if you want to participate, they fill out the form. And then I place them at the location. And then, it's just been, cool. Yeah, it's been a great way for them to connect. It's been a great way for them to sort of like figure out, well, do they want to do this? Is this something, and I've watched a lot of artists start out and being very like, just not sure about it and very anxious about it. And now they're like super confident and they have collectors and they're doing, art shows in Birmingham and Mobile. And so it's been really.
Yeah, that is awesome. Oh man. That's a genius way to do that too. And you're bringing in, like the local community, the other businesses and stuff like that. You're bringing people into their areas, but you're also promoting the art community and giving people in that area somewhere to show their art and to sell it and be involved. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. Are there any like trends or changes that you're seeing in the art market today that artists should be aware of?
Well, I think with it being an election year and tumultuous in that way, I've kind of noticed that people aren't spending as much as they were this time last year. But again, I'm in Dothan, so I don't really think that my perspective is the same as somebody like in Nashville or New York or even. I do think that the like online presence is so important. I really think that makes a big difference of just like, even if it's just for you, having like posting your art on your art page and not using it as like a personal page as much. You know what I mean? Like having your personal page be your personal page and having an art page that's like strictly to show your art and your practice and your work. you as an artist and maybe not as a mother or,
Yeah. Like
whatever.
like I've seen a lot of artists that, like, if you look at their social media, you might not know that they're making a lot of art because they're not necessarily sharing that. They're sharing, their pictures of family
Vacation.
get-together, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say have that separate. I mean, also, but it is who you are as a person. So it's fine. I think it's totally fine to have it there, but just not overwhelming. The art needs to be the overwhelming part of that page.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, do you have like any events or things that, let's see, artists could, like, any calls for art that are coming up this fall, or any special events that you guys are putting on, or anything like that?
I always have a call to artists for solo and group shows. So even if you just submit like 3 to 5 images of a couple pieces of your work, and then I'll have that like in my mind for future group shows. That's on my website. It's, if you go to thebellsgallery.com on, I think it is just says call to artists in the bar, but it maybe you have to click on art and then go to calls. But all of that's there. I'm also particularly looking for public art right now, installation style art, performance art. I'm really wanting to just use the space differently. And also I have just founded a nonprofit, a public art nonprofit in Dothan. And it is all about murals and sculpture and public art installations. And so I'm really very close to digging into that to start making those projects happen. So proposals for that are great. And the sooner the better, because I will have to like get grant funding and, fundraise for some of that. So
yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
now that's not on I do have a call for those things on my website, but it's not for Bell's Gallery. It's for it's called Art in Public Places. So
yeah, your nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, I love it. You're doing so many wonderful things.
Thank you.
I love that so much, because that's one of those things. And, like you said, there's so many areas that are underserved as far as art is concerned. And a lot of people, they just don't experience it or know about it unless there's something nearby, and you're giving that to that community is so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Holly. And your website is thebellsgallery.com. Yeah.
Yep.
And people can get in touch with you there if they want to submit anything, right?
Correct. And then the Instagram is the Bells Gallery. And then if you want to email me, it's thebellsgallery@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Art Talk with April. New episodes are out every Tuesday at 6 p.m.